As I was saying in the previous segment, I just got off the phone with a student who's just ended data collection and was thinking big picture with in my discussion with him. I wasn't recording on Zoom, unfortunately. I was just on the phone. I went for a walk while I was talking to him. That was good for me. I need the exercise and the sunlight and all that. Make sure you're doing that yourself. But I started talking to him big picture. I said, chapter 1, 2, and 3 are like climbing the mountain. And then data collection, you're at the top of that mountain. And then chapter 4 and 5 tend to move faster because you've got gravity on your side. And you start to feel empowered. You start to feel like you're the expert in the room to some degree. And that's something I really encourage with all my students. And hopefully, I probably need to work on that, but to tell people you're getting there, you're becoming the doctor that you set out to be. It is that process that makes you the doctor. It's not the document itself. It's the process that is evidenced by the document you created. And so, you start to build confidence in chapter 1. Okay, I've got a plan. Well, you're still depending on your dissertation chair and your committee. Okay, chapter 2, how do I do this? Okay, you're sort of gaining information. You're searching here and there and sort of trying to put it all together and synthesizing it, and you don't really understand how it all fits, but you've sort of got all this vast knowledge of like, well, here's all that's been done in the field, but it all doesn't click quite yet, even though you've read so much research in your topic of interest relevant to the study that you're going to do. You do chapter 3, maybe you did that earlier in the process, but chapter 3 is typically methodology, design, procedures, data collection plan. And so you do that, and then you start collecting data. Once you get IRB approval and start collecting data, that's when the momentum shifts forward, and you start to feel your muscles grow, so to speak. Your academic muscles grow, and because what happens is the uncertainty of what you're doing starts to really decline. Should do it that way for the camera, maybe. I don't know. But it starts to decline. So chapter 1, you're so dependent on your chair. Chapter 2, still dependent, but also it's just I call it the wilderness. It's like, where do I find, how do I write this well? How do I synthesize? How do I critique? How do I relate this to the purpose? What am I doing? Should I be in grad school? You're asking a lot of those questions. Chapter 3 is like, okay, putting a plan in place, still in a building phase. But once you start to collect data, it's like, not only do I own this data, but I own this study. I'm becoming a doctor. It's where the dynamic starts to shift. Is the dissertation chair and the committee are still your guides, but you become less reliant on them for confidence. Whereas in chapter 1, 2, and 3, they're pushing you and saying, you can do this. Once you start to collect the data, get it transcribed if it's qualitative, start to get it cleaned, analyzed if it's quant, analyzed if it's qualitative, you start to feel like you own it. You own the data, you own the study, and you start to say, okay, this all clicks now. Start to enter into chapter 4. Report the data. Okay. I just transcribed it. I just interviewed 15 people or whatever. I can report the data. I can report the results. You've done it. If you've cleaned quantitative data, a data set, then you're like, I can do that. That's not hard. It's not hard because I know this like it's my baby. I know the hairs on its head, sort of thing, I know this. And guess who doesn't know it? Your dissertation chair, your committee. So that in terms of content expertise, you've gained it. And they have not, because that's not their job. Their job is to coach you, to hold your hand for as long as you need it. And during that time, shifting into chapter 4, you become the person in charge. You become the expert in the room. You still need their expertise to guide you through how to write chapter 4, how to write chapter 5. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but notice the momentum shift. And that's what you want, because ultimately it's our job as dissertation chairs, committee members, to lead you from not being a doctor to being a doctor, to identifying yourself as a doctor. You really do know something. You're the only person in the world that knows your study like you do. Now, if your study doesn't matter, that's no good. But that's why we make you do a study that matters. So that when you are the expert of your study, you not only have expertise in the field and in the discipline, you have the most expertise with your specific study. You're the only one that can put all the pieces together and say, here's my work to give to the world. Here's my work to contribute to the scholarly academic conversation that is ongoing. Here's my contribution. Your chair can't tell you how to finish giving that contribution. Your chair guides you in those last processes, but you are the expert in the room. So start to feel that. Feel those academic muscles grow and start to realize what you've done and why chapter 2 mattered so much. In chapter 4, I'm about to talk about how you start to reflect on how my study, your study in this case, fits with all the research that you read about, all the theoretical projections and predictions. I'll get into that shortly. And know that you're becoming the expert in the room, worthy and competent, full of expertise and experience that are required to call you doctor. And that's really why we call you doctor at the end of all this. So, talk to you soon.